Hello YouTube, this is BUB'S Comics coming at you with a quick comic haul. I've got my pre-orders in from mycomicshop.com. I've cut down my pre-orders a lot, as a lot of people will say. And then for this next pre-order catalog, I've cut them down even more. So really sizing down. Basically the way I'm looking at pre-orders now is what happens is I go to the shop and when I'm at the shop buying like supplies or other things, I see books on the shelf, and sometimes they're books that I have pre-ordered, and I think to myself, I wouldn't buy that book right now just looking at it on the shelf. So the pre-orders can be a good thing and a bad thing. You save some money if you were going to buy that book anyway, but if it turns out it was a book that you wouldn't have been that interested on the shelf, you kind of, you have a book for nothing. Here's a book that I probably wouldn't have picked up on the shelf but looked great. So we'll start off with Marvel. So there's Marvel 3D. I love that cover, classic. I think Zet cover. I'm not sure. I think it's a Zet cover. And I have the real version of this book, and this is the 3D version, and it's absolutely terrible. Sometimes the 3D, I'm a 3D collector. Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're bad. This one's bad. Like, you can't even see. The color is too off. It's too exaggerated. It's not easy to look through. The glasses are a little too small too, and I know people are like, oh, these are kids books. I mean, really, come on, kids aren't grabbing, I can't tell you the last time I saw anyone under 4 foot tall in a comic shop. So I'm not really buying that. So they should have made the glasses a little bigger, but anyway, I just wasn't impressed. I was pretty disappointed in it, and I was looking forward to it, and it sucked. So good story though, I mean, for the original comic. Next we have Return of Wolverine number 5. So this is, I think, the last in this little storyline. It actually was pretty good. The first 4 pretty much stunk, but this one turned out to be pretty good. I was surprised. Now I don't know if it'll make it good enough to have me keep the entire series. Probably not. But it was good. It wrapped up the story pretty well. It sets you on pace for what's going to happen next. So this is, as it turned out, something of a prelude to Infinity Watch with Wolverine, and I'm not even going down that hole. I'm not collecting that crap. I'll wait until it's a regular volumized Wolverine title before I start picking up many of these. I might pick up a couple of variants here and there like I did on this one, but for the most part I'll just be waiting for the main volumized title to come back. Similarly, Marvel Comics presents number 2. I haven't read this one either. Well, I haven't read this one yet. So sometimes I try and get these videos done and I've already read all of them, but in this case I kind of ran out of time. But I like the cover and it's cool and everything, but here's another one. When I saw it on pre-order, I was like, oh man, I gotta have that. And now when I see it in person, I'm like, I could have done without it. The first one was okay. It was decent, definitely worth picking up, but I think I'm gonna maybe stick with the number 1s on these. Just pick up all the new Wolverine books. I might just pick up the number 1s, and then I'll leave the number 2s and read them on digital or something like that if I'm that interested. Similarly, here's Hulkverines number 1. They even spell it out for you. Hulk plus Wolverine plus Weapon H equals Hulkverines. Okay, come on, you love it, it says. Alright. It's Greg Land art, so I never feel bad about picking that up. It's not a bad cover. I don't care for Wolverine's face. Actually, I don't care for any of their faces, but the rest of it looks pretty good. We'll see how this turns out. I haven't read this one yet either, but I'm not so far too excited about it. I think it'll just be a little tiny mini series that will probably be forgotten pretty soon with 150 variants. I'm really getting sick of Marvel's variant crap. But anyway, that's for another debate. Haven't read it yet. It might be good, but either way, I think I've pre-ordered, I don't know if there's 3 in the set or 4 or 5, but I think I only pre-ordered 1 and 2. So of course the third one will probably be some major key that we'll see. Wolverine the Long Night number 2. I read number 1. It was okay. I haven't read number 2 yet, But here's my thing with these Wolverine type books. And as a Wolverine collector, I've got a lot of books that are like this. What happens is that they start off, it's always this mystery, and you never know if Wolverine's the bad guy in this one, but they almost are all the same. You know, when they killed off Wolverine as a character, I think it was in part because they had already told so many stories of Wolverine that they had become very, very repetitive. And this book, I could write the rest of this book. I know exactly where this thing's going. It's always the same. It's always Wolverine. You don't know, you know, someone's murdered a deer and a camper or a hiker somewhere in the woods, and we don't know if it's Wolverine, but it looks like it could be Wolverine. Then it turns out it's not Wolverine, and it's somebody else, and Wolverine's the only one that can stop him, and then he stops him. You know, that's that's pretty much how every one of these things go. So I don't know if I'm going to hang out for all 5 or whatever of these. I think it's 5. I know I've pre-ordered 1, 2, and 3, and I think I stopped after that. And like I said, I'll probably offload this one pretty soon too. Now, a book that is good, and I will keep reading, and I've already read it, is the James Bond Origin. This series is great. This is number 6, and I'm scared because Dynamite has, they tend to change things about every 6 or 7 comics. They tend to either cancel it or, you know, like they do a story arc, and that's a volume, and then they stop a lot of times with the Dynamite books. So this is number 6, so it didn't really wrap anything up. It was kind of a standalone story, as these all have been. So anyway, looking forward to the next one, seeing what comes out. I've really enjoyed this series, and I thought it was going to be bad when I first pre-ordered it, this series. I was like, oh man, I don't know, some, you know, redone origin story where James Bond's going to be some wuss or something, and, you know, whatever. But it turned out to be fantastic. And actually, this woman here, I forget her name, she turns out to be like the lead role in this comic, and the comic is written from her perspective, and it's fantastic. It's really good, because when that started, I was like, oh boy, what do we got here? You know, I don't like when they, you know, introduce another character and try and make it all about them, but it turned out to be really good and a really good book, so I highly recommend that one. That was the pick of the week so far. Next, we have James Bond 007. We have number 3. I haven't read these yet, but I picked up a few of them, so I'm looking forward to it. So there's number 3, and here's number 4, and that should be continuing the Odd Job story that they had started. The art on the cover of these hasn't been so great. Really, the interior art on these haven't been so great either, so hopefully they'll pick up and get better. Here's Shape of Elvira, number 1. I had been reading Elvira, Mistress of the Dark, that had Dave Acosta art. I forget who wrote it. But this one was not as sharp as the other ones that I've been reading. It just wasn't as, the art wasn't as good on the interior. It's got Francesca Francavilla cover, which is fantastic. But the interior art wasn't near as good as Dave Acosta had been doing on the regular Elvira series. And the writing was just kind of like blah. It just seemed like they were getting through it, like, oh, she's popular right now, or this comic had been popular, so let's go ahead and get a second series out of it. So the other series is still running, and then they did this little like four-part miniseries. So hopefully it gets much better in the next 3, but so far this one was probably the most disappointing. And then we have The Lone Ranger. I haven't read this yet, but I'm looking forward to it. John Cassaday cover there. The Lone Ranger number 4, looking lone and rangery. And here is The Lone Ranger number 5, looking very less lone and just as rangery. So there you go. Looking forward to reading that and telling you all about it. I love the Lone Ranger series. It's just been fantastic. I haven't read a bad one yet. And then last but not least, we have another independent here. We got Marvel, Cave Woman, Razor's Run. So mostly an independent haul. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Marvel books And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 independent books. So, Cave Woman Razor's Run. This is, the art's done by Andrew Mangum. So, as you all probably know by now, the Cave Woman books that have Devin Massey as the main artist and writer I think are absolutely horrible. They're basically just smut. But basically, anytime anyone else handles the character, it's done pretty well. So on the Massey books, I tend to just collect the cover art by Bud Root, and I more or less ignore the interior. But Andrew Mangum did one of my favorite Cave Woman called Like and Run, and it was like a werewolf book, and it was fantastic. And he's done other stuff like that. My only issue with him, although I love this picture and she looks fantastic, is that every single woman he draws has the exact same face. And when I say the exact same face, I'm going to open this up for you real quick and show you an interior panel, because it really, really illustrates just how every single one of his women look exactly, and when I say exactly the same, I mean you can't tell the difference between them. They have to like artificially add they have to artificially add things like tattoos on their face or something to be able to distinguish between them. So here's a good example. Okay, so here's some interior art right here. I'm going to tell you right now that all three of those women featured there are different. Those are different characters. So those two girls there, they're different. Even though this one has like something across her eye and this one has something across her eye, it's a different shape of something across this woman's eye than this woman's, and they're different characters. And then there's Miriam, the main character, and she looks just like the one above her. I mean, the exact same eyebrows, eyes, nose, lips, everything is exactly the same. That's you got to work on that, buddy. I mean, the rest of it's fantastic. It really is. Just an excellently drawn book. The guy can draw monsters and all kinds of stuff. And the men tend to look different too. But when it comes to a woman's face, he can only draw one woman's face, and he puts her on everything. And it's just a little bit like confusing, honestly. I mean, it's not even an artistic critique. It's confusing when I'm reading the book. I can't tell who's who. I gotta how wide is the tattoo on their face? So anyway, that's my little critique of that. But I mean, a lot of people are like, well, if you're buying Cave Woman comics, you're probably don't care about the story, but I do. So anyway, there you go. Cave Woman, Razor's Run, Andrew Mangum art on the cover, fantastic. Interior, fantastic. He's just got to find a few more faces. I think it works for Miriam. I think she looks good, but they all look so much the same, it's hard to follow the story. So anyway, that's my little comic haul. Hope you all enjoyed that. We'll be rolling through the rest of the week and bringing out more books, and then I feel a purge coming on. I feel like I've collected a few extra books in the last month or so, and I think I'm going to be offloading a few. So we'll see how that goes. Take it to an LCS and sell it by the batch. So there you go, and thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you all next time. Till then, read a comic. Thanks. Bye.